Have you ever stared at yourself in the mirror and, for just a split second, felt like you'd seen that face before in a dream, another time, or even a place you've never been? Maybe it was in a mist-shrouded mountain valley, or among the smoldering ruins after a great blaze. You stood there, your body feeling strange, but your soul somehow at home. You don't know whose memory that was, but you know it was yours. Across every corner of human history, hints of past lives lie buried. In Indian villages, American suburbs, even the remote mountains of China, kids, adults, and even people on their deathbeds claim to vividly recall a previous life. They describe it in uncanny detail: how they died, who their family was, exactly where their hometown lay. And investigators are often stunned to discover those details line up with real records. So, where do these memories come from? Have these people truly lived another life? Or have we all simply forgotten who we once were, only to step again into the same cycle of fate? Is reincarnation nothing more than a superstition, or could it be a rule the universe sets in motion the moment we're born? If life really is a journey of back-to-back chapters, might every choice you make right now be scripting your next existence? Let's look at some of the most compelling documented cases. In the past few decades, researchers around the world have documented and investigated over 1,000 cases of so-called past life memories. These recollections typically come straight from children between the ages of 2 and 7, kids who've never studied history, but can describe life in places they've never been, name relatives they've never met, even explain exactly how they died. Indian boy Bardo Sharma's Memorious Bardo was born in Uttar Pradesh, India. At age 3, he began insisting he was the son of a spice merchant in a village he'd never visited, and that his name was Sudhir. He even claimed he died from a blow to the head. Following the name and address Bardo rattled off, investigators located a family who'd lost a boy named Sudhir. In a street fight, he'd been fatally struck in the head with a club. Bardo not only recognized photos of Sudhir's family, but also revealed the hiding spot of a secret keepsake that only the real Sudhir would have known about. American boy James Leninger and the WWI pilot James, an otherwise ordinary child from Louisiana, started having terrifying nightmares at age 2, yelling things like, "The plane's on fire," and "I'm falling off the ship." Under gentle questioning from his parents, he described being a World War II pilot flying a Corsair fighter and being shot down by Japanese forces near Iwo Jima. The name he gave, the carrier he served on, and even his squadron number all matched those of a real pilot, James Houston, who was killed in action. Further investigation confirmed that the names of his fellow crewmen and the precise deployment sequence he recited were spot on, and none of that information was publicly available. The Lisu phenomenon in Guangxi, Shanghai in the 1980s, a woman named Lisu from Guangxi claimed she'd remembered another life ever since she was a child. She insisted she'd once lived in a village in western Yunnan, naming her parents, describing her family's layout down to the smallest detail. When researchers took her to that very spot, she not only located her past life home, but also exactly pointed out the house's floor plan and hidden caches of belongings, information that the current villagers said only the deceased herself could have known. These cases share some striking patterns. Young children recount their memories spontaneously, with no obvious prompting. Their stories brim with rich, private details outsiders couldn't possibly know. When investigators check, most of these details line up astonishingly well with real records. Some children even exhibit skills or preferences that match the identity they claim to have had. Science still has no unified explanation. Some experts suggest subconscious memory, genetic information inheritance, or environmental cues, but none fully account for such pinpoint accurate recollections. So, if these kids really aren't making it up, where are these memories coming from? And if they truly lived another life, might each of us also carry a forgotten past that's just waiting to be remembered? Before we even had telescopes or microscopes, people were already asking, after death, is there really an after? Across nearly every civilization, when we've tried to make sense of life's end, we've landed on the same answer: reincarnation. In India, reincarnation isn't just a faith, it's part of daily life. They call it Samsara, the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Powering that cycle is karma. Every choice you make in this life ripples into the next. As the Bhagavad Gita says, just as someone changes out of old clothes and puts on new ones, so the soul casts off worn bodies and enters others. Buddhism picked up and deepened that idea. To the Buddha, all suffering springs from attachment, and attachment traps us in the 6 realms: gods, humans, jealous demigods, asuras, animals, hungry spirits, and hell beings. Only by truly embracing impermanence and letting go of craving can we escape this wheel of fate. Perhaps most striking is Tibetan Buddhism's teaching on the Bardo, the in-between state. According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, when someone dies, they don't immediately move on. They pass through up to 49 days in the Bardo, where the soul faces visions, undergoes judgment, and may even choose its next body. Many of the recognized Tulkus reincarnated lamas have been found and verified based on this very process, carrying on the work of their past lives. Along the Nile River, the ancient Egyptians saw death not as an end but as a gateway to another realm. They equipped the deceased with the Book of the Dead and buried spells and ritual tools alongside the body to guide the soul through the afterlife's trials. In the judgment of Osiris, the heart was placed on one side of a scale and weighed against the feather of truth and justice. If the heart proved too heavy with sin and attachment, the soul would be devoured, unable to be reborn. Is this soul trial really hinting at some cosmic moral feedback loop? A filter that decides whether a spirit may move on? To the philosophers of ancient Greece, the soul was no mere passenger of the body but a vessel to eternity. Pythagoras claimed to recall for past lives, insisting that the soul could migrate among animals, humans, and even stars. Plato, in the Phaedo, sketched a vision of the soul's return to ultimate truth, arguing that each newborn life is simply an old soul's comeback. Why did these thinkers from different cultures all arrive at the same conclusion that life happens more than once? Pure intuition? A collective fantasy? Or did they glimpse a universal law we've since forgotten? A cross-civilizational consensus emerged. Life isn't a straight line but a circle. From Eastern temples to Western shrines, from the prayer wheels scattered across the Tibetan plateau to the echoing corridors of Egypt's pyramids, humanity has tried again and again to whisper one secret to posterity. We journey through a vast cycle, not toward a final finish line. Perhaps it's because the soul cannot stand still that fate never quite repeats itself and yet always returns. And now, as science inches ever closer to mapping the frontiers of human consciousness, more and more researchers are dusting off these ancient teachings. Could it be that modern science is unwittingly confirming something the ancients long ago discovered? Is reincarnation just a product of belief? Modern science has long asked that question. Yet, strangely enough, every time we dig into the nature of consciousness, we bump up against the edges of reincarnation. We can explain the body, bones, blood, nerves, but what about consciousness? That sense of who am I and I am experiencing this, does it belong purely to our flesh, or could it exist beyond the body? American neurosurgeon Eben Alexander casts some light on this. After falling into a 7-day coma from meningitis during which his brain's cortex showed almost no activity, he experienced an astonishingly vivid journey of consciousness. When he woke, his account wasn't overly spiritualized, but it had all the hallmarks of a soul departing and returning. His takeaway: consciousness isn't produced by the brain, it uses the brain as an interface. Could that mean consciousness survived bodily death in another form? In quantum physics, consciousness is being reimagined as part of an information field. Physicist Stuart Hameroff and mathematician Roger Penrose proposed the Or-Cho-R theory. Consciousness lives in tiny microtubules inside our cells, storing and transmitting information quantum style. When we die, that quantum information doesn't vanish, it goes back into the universe's information field. In other words, death isn't an end, it's an upload. That idea doesn't prove reincarnation outright, but it opens a radical window. If information can persist and consciousness can transfer, might rebirth simply be another form of data download? Physics tells us that information in the universe can't be destroyed. Even when a life ends, its information has to exist somewhere. Theoretical physicist Brian Greene has even speculated that, given enough time, some corner of the cosmos could reassemble your exact information pattern. So, if we are indeed information-based beings, reincarnation might not be a soul leap so much as a restart in another realm. Parallel universe theories take this further. Every choice, every death, every birth could open a portal to another version of you, another kind of soul cycle. On the empirical side, Dr. Ian Stevenson at the University of Virginia spent nearly 40 years collecting over 2,500 cases of children claiming past life memories across cultures. He found common threads: kids born with birthmarks or deformities over the site of a past life wound, toddlers who effortlessly knew details of a previous life's habits, extreme phobias like terror of fire or water that matched how they said they died. While mainstream science hasn't fully embraced his work, his data sparked fresh research into inherited consciousness, emotional memory, and information field interactions. As science edges ever closer to the spiritual, perhaps the truth is just one awakening away. We haven't definitively proven reincarnation, but science is quietly building bridges to those ancient claims. We're beginning to rethink the ties between soul, time, universe, and consciousness. Reincarnation might no longer be just a religious concept, but an unsolved cosmic algorithm waiting for us to decode it in higher-level terms. If reincarnation is real, are we doomed to replay our fate? Or can we actually rewrite it? That's a question that makes your heart slow down. After all, if everything's already been scripted, what meaning do our struggles and tears hold? Maybe you've never thought of it this way. Fate isn't a locked-in screenplay. It's more like an open editing process. Karma, not punishment, but an echoing Eastern thought. Karma is often misunderstood as divine payback. You do wrong in one life, you suffer in the next. But real karma isn't cosmic retribution. It's the ripple effect of your actions. Think of tossing a stone into a pond. Those waves spread out and then circle right back to you. Not because you deserve it, but because you planted the seed. The link between seed and fruit isn't moral judgment, it's natural law. So fate isn't the judge, it's the echo. What you send out is what you hear back. Can we ever break out of this endless wheel of life? The Buddha said, let go of a single thought, and you gain boundless freedom. True reincarnation isn't just something that happens after you die, it plays out every day. Have you noticed how each morning when you wake up, you're rebooting a familiar self? Or how certain emotions, relationships, and choices loop again and again like a broken record? Reincarnation doesn't have to mean hopping into a new body. It can simply be a psychological inertial life spinning in circles until you truly wake up. And the moment you start to catch yourself repeating the same impulses, habits, and avoidance patterns, you've already begun to shift. That's the first step in changing your destiny. Ancient prophecies often declare, what's destined cannot be changed. Meanwhile, modern psychology insists, you can become whoever you choose to be. These ideas might seem at odds, but they actually complement each other. Fate gives you the direction. Free will chooses the route. You can't pick where you're born, but you can decide how to heal your wounds. You can't foresee who you'll meet, but you can choose whether to forgive and move forward. You're not a slave to fate. You're the co-author of your story. As one Indian master put it, walking in darkness doesn't mean you can't light a lamp. If the soul truly journeys life after life, it isn't just to replay old scenes, it's to grow and transform. Life is like a sculptor's chisel, carving our souls sharper through love and loss, desire and release. Perhaps the struggles and wounds you face now are the lessons you didn't finish in a past life and exactly why your soul chose to return. Escaping the cycle of rebirth isn't about leaving the world, it's about living fully, right here, right now. It's about responding to destiny with awakening. Maybe this isn't the first time you've woken up in this world, you've just forgotten your last dream. You might once have been a warrior on the open plains, riding through morning mist, your sword flashing against a riverside sunset. Or maybe you were a quiet wanderer, performing on a corner of an ancient city, penning poetry by the seaside, watching the stars in a time of turmoil. But in this life you chose to come back. Why? Maybe it's to finish a chapter left undone. Maybe it's to learn again how to love, how to let go, how to truly be in those moments where time's threads cross. Life isn't a one-way trip. It's the soul's endless cycle, the journey of consciousness, writing and rewriting itself across different bodies and years. And our meeting right now might not be by accident. Perhaps in some distant life, you began searching for these words, seeking the voice that could awaken you, the spark that could reignite your inner flame. So remember, you're not a prisoner of fate. You're a seeker roaming the labyrinth of destiny. Once you realize that, the cycle can no longer bind you. And if consciousness truly is, as science suggests, information that endures, do you believe those fleeting moments of déjà vu are really just reunions with a past you?